Hey y'all, you know what time it is? Bam! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! What you see behind me? My new bookshelf. You know, that's the one cool thing about living in Yellow Springs. When somebody puts... There are people... You ever heard the phrase, another person's trash is another man's treasure? That is true about this town. Like, people will put out stuff they have either not used for years, or stuff that's too small or too old, or they've got newer stuff and they want to put out the old stuff. I saw this bookshelf. Shout out to Eric Lawhorn and his father Early. Thank you so very much. If you see this video, my thank you to you. I really appreciate y'all. And thank you, Eric, for helping me get it up these stairs. I appreciate you. I happen to be coming back from my workout, which also, shout out to Kyle Truitt. He's an amazing friend and a wonderful personal trainer. If you ever want to go support his business, his hustle, the amazing way he is dedicated to fitness and to good health and well-being, go to posteriorchain.com. That's POSTERIOR chain.com. All one word. PosteriorChain.com. He's got t-shirts for sale. Look at his journey and history and eloquence. Please check it out. It is definitely worth it. Like I said, now I got my new bookshelf. Now I don't have to stack books in front of books. You feel what I'm saying? I got 1, 2, 3. Now I have, 4 counting my bedroom. I have 4 bookshelves now. First of all, you can never have too many books. Most of the books you see behind me are Japanese manga. Of course, they're in English, with some of them being in Japanese as well. But yeah, now I have a lot more room and don't feel as smothered in some areas of my house. Now, my apartment is quite nice. Don't get me wrong. I love my space. But when I tell you, this is a reason why I love Wednesdays. Wednesdays are my favorite days of the week because good things happen to me without even having to ask for it. Because I did not expect to see that. Because I got up this morning, woke up, made myself some tea, got ready to go work out, went and worked out, paid rent today, saw this, was able to get help at an adequate amount of time, got this in here, moved stuff around the apartment, cleaned my living room, threw away a bunch of stuff I didn't need anymore. This is a blessing. Y'all, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. The goddess, she is looking out for us. She is looking out for me when you least expect it. When you least expect it. However, whatever denomination or spiritual practice you have, the universe does good things for good people when you least expect it. So always be mindful of helping others out. Just pay it forward. In the same way somebody did a kind thing for me, I'm going to pay it forward by doing something nice for somebody else next time. Absolutely. And yes, I do not own the music that is being played in the background, but it is a lovely playlist entitled Falling in Love with Hal Jenkins Pendragon. And if you are an anime fan, or if you're a Hayao Miyazaki fan or a Studio Ghibli fan, you will recognize that name as the same name of one of the main characters. Well, the main character. Well, Sophie is more so the main character of the story. But the titular character, Howl of Howl's Moving Castle. It's one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite anime films. It's amazing. I remember when that movie came to theaters. That was back in 2006. Unfortunately, I was not able to go. One, because I didn't have a job, and I wasn't about to, make my mom give me, money to go to the movies. So I was like, I'll just wait till it comes out on DVD. DVD, VHS, whatever came first at the time. Well, 2006, I'm pretty sure. We had skipped. Yeah, we had been skipped VHS, so it was pretty much DVD, Blu-ray. If memory serves correctly. I'm trying to keep things together. Because starting tomorrow will be a month until my 30th birthday. I'm going to be 30 years old. It's going to be great. I'll look a day over 17, 18, and ironically, I found a video of me from my early days of college. I look very young in the 2 videos I found. I had to write a discussion video project about dating in college, and I did really great on it, even though, I got some unsavory commentary about my opinion being a bit flawed, but obviously I've grown since then. But I still hold on to my opinion that dating in college is probably not should be your first priority. You know, there's other stuff you could be doing. There's other people you could be networking with and connecting with, and that being in a relationship could impede you from. Just saying. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. But I got my new bookshelf. It's amazing. And this isn't even all my books. I got a whole bunch of comics that I need to... Well, they have a space in my storage closet above my wardrobe, which I need to find a friend that can build me a wardrobe. Shout out to anybody that's a really good carpenter who knows how to do woodwork and, you know, would make me a wardrobe for my birthday. Just saying. Nah, I'm kidding. But we are coming to the end of this story. Unless people would like me to read because in this particular edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, they also give you a rough draft version of Alice in Wonderland. It's called Alice Underground. Alice's Adventures Underground. Which is why in the Tim Burton movie, as I said before, instead of it being Wonderland's Underland. Because it's underground. It's a whole world. Anyway, besides that point, we're going to enjoy this, get into it, listen to the music. As I said, I do not own the music that you are listening to in the background, with his Jean Ni Pedi, number 1 by Eric Satie, which is a really good song. It's very calming. Chapter 9, Queen Alice. "Well, this is grand," said Alice. "I never expected I should be a queen so soon. And I tell you what it is, your majesty," she went on in a severe tone. She was always rather fond of scolding herself. "It'll never do for you to be lolling about on the grass like that. Queens have to be dignified, you know." So she got up and walked about, rather stiffly just at first, as she was afraid that the crown might come off. But she comforted herself with the thought that there was nobody to see her. "And if I really am a queen," she said as she sat down again, "I should be able to manage it quite well in time." Everything was happening so oddly that she didn't feel a bit surprised at finding the Red Queen and White Queen sitting close to her on each side. She would have liked very much to ask them how they came there, but she feared it would not be quite civil. However, there would be no harm, she thought, in asking if the game was over. "Please, would you tell me—" she began, looking timidly at the Red Queen. "Speak when you're spoken to," the Queen sharply interrupted her. "But if everybody obeyed that rule," said Alice, who was always ready for a little argument, "and if you only spoke when you were spoken to, and the other person always waited for you to begin, you see, nobody would ever say anything, so that—" "Ridiculous!" cried the Queen. "Why don't you see, child?" Here she broke off with a frown, and after thinking for a moment, suddenly changed the subject of the conversation. "What do you mean, if you are really a queen? What right have you to call yourself so? You can't be a queen, you know, till you pass the proper examination. And the sooner we begin it, the better." "I only said if," poor Alice pleaded in a piteous tone. The two queens looked at each other, and the Red Queen remarked with a little shudder, "She says if only if. If she said a great deal more than that," the White Queen moaned, wringing her hands. "Oh, ever so much more than that." "So you do know," the Red Queen said to Alice, "always speak the truth. Think before you speak, and write it down afterwards." "I'm sure I didn't mean it," Alice was beginning, but the Red Queen interrupted her impatiently. "That's just what I complain of. You should have meant it. What do you suppose is the use of a child without any meaning? Even a joke should have some meaning, and a child's more important than a joke, I hope. You couldn't deny that even if you tried with both hands." "I don't deny things with my hands," Alice objected. "Nobody said you did," said the Red Queen. "I said you couldn't if you tried." "She's in that state of mind," said the White Queen, "that she wants to deny something, only she doesn't want to deny. She doesn't know what to deny." "A nasty and vicious temper," the Red Queen remarked, and then there was an uncomfortable silence for a minute or two. The Red Queen broke the silence by saying to the White Queen, "I invite you to Alice's dinner party this afternoon." The White Queen smiled feebly and said, "And I invite you." "I didn't know I was to have a party at all," said Alice, "but if there's to be one, I think I ought to invite the guests." "We gave you the opportunity of doing it," the Red Queen remarked, "but I dare say you've not had many lessons in manners yet." Manners are not taught in lessons," said Alice. "Lessons teach you to do sums and things of that sort." "Can you do addition?" the White Queen asked. "What's one and 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 one?" "I don't know," said Alice. "I lost count." "She can't do addition," the Red Queen interrupted. "Can't you do subtraction? Take 9 from 8. 9 from 8? I can't, you know," Alice replied very readily. "But she can't do subtraction," said the White Queen. "Can you do division? Divide a loaf by a knife. What's the answer to that?" "I suppose," Alice was beginning, but the Red Queen answered for her. "Bread and butter, of course. Try another subtraction sum. Take a bone from a dog. What remains?" Alice considered. "The bone wouldn't remain, of course, if I took it, and the dog wouldn't remain. It would come to bite me, and I'm sure I shouldn't remain." "Then you think nothing would remain?" said the Red Queen. "I think that's the answer." "Wrong, as usual," said the Red Queen. "The dog's temper would remain." "But I don't see how—" "Why, look here," the Red Queen cried. "The dog would lose its temper, wouldn't it?" "Perhaps it would," Alice repeated cautiously.
"Then if the dog went away, its temper would remain," the Queen exclaimed triumphantly.
Alice said as gravely as she could that they might go different ways, but she couldn't help thinking to herself, what dreadful nonsense we are talking. So there's the White Queen on Alice's left and the Red Queen on Alice's right, and the Red Queen is just rude. Still love her though. She's an amazing character. Way better than the Queen of Hearts. A little less severe. Excuse me.
"She can't do sums a bit," the Queen said together with great emphasis.
"Can you do sums?" Alice said, turning suddenly on the White Queen, for she didn't like being found fault with so much. The Queen gasped and shut her eyes. I can do addition," she said, "if you give me time. But I can't do subtraction under any circumstances."
"Of course you know your ABC," said the Red Queen.
"To be sure I do," said Alice. "So do I," the White Queen whispered. "We'll often say it over together, dear, and I'll tell you the secret. I can read words of one letter. Isn't that grand? However, don't be discouraged. You'll come to it in time."
Here the Red Queen began again. "Can you answer useful questions?" she said. "How is bread made?"
"I know that," Alice cried eagerly. "You take some flour—" "Where did you pick the flour?" the White Queen asked. "In a garden or in the hedge?" "Well, it isn't picked at all."
"Oh, excuse me,"
Alice explained. "It's ground."
"How many acres of ground?"
said the White Queen. "You mustn't leave out so many things."
"Fan her head,"
the Red Queen anxiously interrupted. "She'll be feverish after so much thinking." So they set to work and fanned her with hundreds of leaves, till she had to beg them to leave off. It blew her hair about so.
"She's all right again now," said the Red Queen. "Do you know languages? What's the French for fiddle-dee-dee?"
Fiddle-dee-dee is not English," Alice replied gravely.
"Whoever said it was?"
said the Red Queen. Alice thought she saw a way out of the difficulty this time. "If you'll tell me what language fiddle-dee-dee is, I'll tell you the French for it," she exclaimed triumphantly.
But the Red Queen drew herself up rather stiffly and said, Queens never make bargains."
Thanks, Dad. My dad's watching. Hey. Oh, by the way, y'all, even though I may not respond to comments when you do type them while I'm doing this, I do look at them after, so I do appreciate. Oh, hey, Kitty! What's up, friend? Thank you for watching. I wish queens never asked questions, Alice thought to herself. Don't let us quarrel, the White Queen said in an anxious tone. What's the cause of lightning? The cause of lightning, Alice said very decidedly, for she felt quite certain about this, is the thunder. No, no, she hastily corrected herself. I meant the other way.
It's too late to correct it, said the Red Queen. When you've once said a thing, that fixes it, and you must take the consequences.
Which reminds me, the White Queen said, looking down and nervously clasping and unclasping her hands. We had such a thunderstorm last Tuesday. I mean, one of the last set of Tuesdays, you know. Alice was puzzled. In our country, she remarked, there's only one day at a time.
The Red Queen said, That's a poor, thin way of doing things. Now, here, we mostly have days and nights, 2 or 3 at a time, and sometimes in the winter we take as many as 5 nights together, for warmth, you know.
Are 5 nights warmer than 1 night, then? Alice ventured to ask.
5 times warmer, of course.
But they should be 5 times as cold by the same rule.
Just so, cried the Red Queen. 5 times as warm and 5 times as cold. Just as I'm 5 times as rich as you are and 5 times as cleverer.
The amount of shade that the Red Queen is throwing is ridiculous. I'm just saying. Alice sighed and gave it up. It's exactly like a riddle with no answer, she thought. Humpty Dumpty saw it too, the White Queen went on in a low voice, more as if she were talking to herself. He came to the door with a corkscrew in his hand.
What did he want?
Said the Red Queen. He said he would come in, the White Queen went on, because he was looking for a hippopotamus. Now, as it happened, there wasn't such a thing in the house that morning. Is there generally? Alice asked in an astonished tone. Well, only on Thursday, said the Queen. I know what he came for, said Alice. He wanted to punish the fish because... Here the White Queen began again. It was such a thunderstorm. You can't think. She never could, you know, said the Red Queen. And part of the roof came off, and ever so much thunder got in, and went rolling around the room in great lumps, and knocking over the table and things, till I was so frightened I couldn't remember my own name. Alice thought to herself, I should never try to remember my name in the middle of an accident. Where would be the use of it? But she did not say this out loud for fear of hurting the poor Queen's feelings. Your Majesty must excuse her, the Red Queen said to Alice, taking one of the White Queen's hands in her own and gently stroking it. She means well, but she can't help saying foolish things as a general rule. The White Queen looked timidly at Alice, who felt she ought to say something kind, but really couldn't think of anything at the moment.
She never was really well brought up, the Red Queen went on, but it's amazing how good-tempered she is. Pat her on the head and see how pleased she'll be.
But this was more than Alice had courage to do. A little kindness and putting her hair in papers would do wonders with her, the White Queen gave a deep sigh and laid her head on Alice's shoulder. I am so sleepy, she moaned.
She's tired, poor thing, said the Red Queen. Smooth her hair and lend her your nightcap and sing her a soothing lullaby.
I haven't got a nightcap with me, said Alice, as she tried to obey the first direction, and I don't know any soothing lullabies. I must do it myself, then, said the Red Queen, and she began. Hush-a-by, lady, in Alice's lap, till the feast is ready, we've time for a nap. When the feast is over, we'll go to the ball, Red Queen and White Queen and Alice and all. And now you know the words, she added as she put her head down on Alice's other shoulder. Just sing it through to me. I'm getting sleepy, too. In another moment, both queens were fast asleep and snoring loudly. What am I to do? Exclaimed Alice, looking about in great perplexity, as first one round head and then the other rolled down from her shoulder lay like a heavy lump in her lap. I don't think it ever happened before that anyone had to take care of 2 queens asleep at once. No, not in all the history of England. It couldn't, you know. Because there was never more than 1 queen at a time. Do wake up, you heavy things.
she went on in an impatient tone, but there was no answer but a gentle snoring. The snoring got more distinct every minute and sounded more like a tune. At last she could not even make out words as she listened so eagerly that when the two great heads suddenly vanished from her lap, she hardly missed them. Which, first of all, I will be the first to say that I do not mind if someone slumps their head onto my shoulder to rest it. Like, if we're driving in a car, we're on a road trip, and you just happen to, like, rest your head on my shoulder, I don't mind. I don't care. You know, people need to sleep, people need to rest. It's okay. Even if I was on a bus, well, prior to COVID, if I was on a bus or, like, going into town somewhere, or if I was on a plane and somebody accidentally let their shoulder onto mine, I wouldn't mind, but at the earliest opportunity, I would politely say, "Hey, sweetheart, it's time to get up." Our music is getting quite dramatic. Yes, Swan Lake. If anybody ever wants to be super cool to take me to go see Swan Lake, the ballet, please let me know. She was standing before an arched doorway over which were the words Queen Alice in large letters, and on each side of the arch there was a bell handle. One was marked Visitor's Bell and the other Servant's Bell. "I'm waiting till the song's over," thought Alice, "and then I'll ring the which bell must I ring?" She went on, very much puzzled by the names. "I'm not a visitor, and I'm not a servant. There ought to be one marked Queen, you know." Just then the door opened a little way, and a creature with a long beak put its neck out for a moment and said, "No admittance until the week after next," and shut the door again with a bang. Alice knocked and rang in vain for a long time, but at last a very old frog, who was sitting under a tree, got up and hobbled slowly towards her. He was dressed in bright yellow and had enormous boots on.
"What is it now?"
the frog said in a deep, hoarse whisper. Alice turned round, ready to find fault with anybody. "Where's the servant whose business is it to answer the door?" she began angrily.
"Which door?"
said the frog. Alice almost stamped with irritation at the slow drawl in which he spoke. "This door, of course." The frog looked at the door with its large, dull eyes for a minute. Alice is just not having it. She said, "You read this sign? It says Queen Alice. I'm gonna need you to open this door." He does have very large shoes. Well, frogs have very big webbed feet. Yes, thank you, Jim. Thank you for that. Then he went nearer and rubbed it with his thumb as if he were trying whether the paint would come off. Then he looked at Alice.
"To answer the door," he said. "What's it been asking of?" He was
so hoarse that Alice could scarcely hear him. I don't know what you mean," she said.
"I speaks English, doesn't I?" the frog went on. "Or aren't you deaf? What did it ask for?"
"Nothing," Alice said impatiently. "I've been knocking at it."
Shouldn't do that, the frog muttered. "Wexes it, you know." Then he went up and gave the door a kick with one of its great feet. "You let it alone," he panted out as he hobbled back to his tree, "and I'll let you alone, you know." At this moment the door was flung open and a shrill voice was heard singing. To the looking-glass world it was Alice that said, "I've a scepter in hand, I've a crown on my head. Let the looking-glass creatures, whatever they be, come dine with the Red Queen, the White Queen, and me." And hundreds of voices joined in the chorus. "Then fill up the glasses as quick as you can, and sprinkle the table with buttons and bran. Put cats in the coffee and mice in the tea, and welcome Queen Alice with 30 times 3. Which technically is 90. Okay.
Then followed a confused noise of cheering, and Alice thought to herself, 30 times 3 makes 90. I wonder if anyone's counting. In a minute there was silence again. The same voice sang another verse. "O looking-glass creatures," quoth Alice, "draw near. 'Tis an honor to see me, a favor to hear. 'Tis a privilege high to have dinner and tea, along with the Red Queen, the White Queen, and me." Then came the chorus again. "Then fill up the glasses with treacle and ink, or anything else that is pleasant to drink. Mix sand with the cider and wool with the wine, and welcome Queen Alice with 90 times 9. 90 times 9, Alice repeated in despair. Oh, they'll never be done. I'd better go in at once. And in she went, and there was a dead silence the moment she appeared. Alice glanced nervously along the table as she walked up the large hall and noticed that there were about 50 guests, all of all kinds. Some were animals, some were birds, and there were even a few flowers among them. I'm glad they come without waiting to be asked, she thought. I should never have known who were the right people to invite. There were 3 chairs at the head of the table. The Red and White Queen had already taken 2 of them, but the middle one was empty. Alice sat down at it, rather uncomfortable at the silence and longing for someone to speak. At last the Red Queen began, "You've missed the soup and the fish. Put out the joint." And the waiter set a leg of mutton before Alice, who looked at it rather anxiously, as she had never had to carve a joint before. "You look a little shy. Let me introduce you to that leg of mutton," said the Red Queen. "Alice, mutton. Mutton, Alice." The leg of mutton got up from the dish and made a little bow to Alice, and Alice returned the bow, not knowing whether to be frightened or amused. "May I give you a slice?" she said, taking up the knife and fork and licking from one queen to the other. "Certainly not," the Red Queen said very decidedly. "It isn't etiquette to cut anyone you've been introduced to. Remove the joint." So here's this very adorable mutton joint, and if you don't know what mutton is, it's a leg of lamb. I know. Shocking how such an adorable creature could be an adorable piece of meat. Taking a very cute bow. Thank you, Mr. Mutton. And the waiters carried it off and brought a large plum pudding in its place. And I won't be introduced to the pudding, please," Alice said rather hastily, "or we shall get no dinner at all. May I give you some?" But the Red Queen looked sulkily and growled, "Pudding, Alice, Alice, pudding. Remove the pudding." And the waiters took it away so quickly that Alice couldn't return its bow. However, she didn't see why the Red Queen should be the only one to give orders, so as an experiment she called out, "Waiter, bring me back the pudding." And there it was again in a moment, like a conjuring trick. It was so large that she couldn't help feeling a little shy with it, as if she had been with the mutton. However, she conjured up her shyness by a great effort and cut a slice and handed it to the Red Queen.
"What impertinence," said the pudding. "I wonder how you'd like it if I were to cut a slice out of you, you creature."
It spoke in a thick, suety sort of voice, and Alice hadn't a word to say in reply. She could only sit and look at it and gasp. "Make a remark," said the Red Queen. "It's ridiculous to leave all the conversations to the pudding." "Do you know I've had such a quantity of poetry repeated to me today?" Alice began, a little frightened at finding that the moment she opened her lips there was dead silence, and all eyes were fixed upon her. "It's a very curious thing. I think every poem was about fishes in some way. Do you know why they're so fond of fishes all about here?" She spoke to the Red Queen, whose answer was a little wide of the mark. "As to fishes," she said, very slowly and solemnly, putting her mouth close to Alice's ear, "Her White Majesty knows a lovely riddle, all in poetry, all about fishes. Shall she repeat it?" "Her Red Majesty is very kind to mention it," the White Queen murmured into Alice's other ear, in a voice like the cooing of a pigeon. "It would be such a treat. May I?" "Please do," Alice said very politely. The White Queen laughed with delight and stroked Alice's cheek. "First the fish must be caught. That is easy. A baby, I think, could have caught it. Next the fish must be bought. That is easy. A penny, I think, would have bought it. Now cook me the fish. That is easy, and will not take more than a minute. Let it lie in a dish. That is easy, because it is already in it. Bring it here, let me sup. It is easy to set such a dish on the table. Take the dish cover up. Ah, that is so hard that I
fear I am unable. For it holds it like glue, holds the lid to the dish while it lies in the middle, which is easiest to do, undish cover the fish, or dish cover the riddle. Take a minute to think about it and then guess, said the Red Queen. Meanwhile, we'll drink your health, Queen Alice's health, she screamed at the top of her voice, and all the guests began drinking it directly, and very queerly they managed it. Some of them put their glasses upon their heads like extinguishers, and drank all that trickled down their faces. Others upset the decanters, and drank the wine as if it ran off the edges of the table, and 3 of them, who looked like kangaroos, scrambled into the dish of roast mutton and began eagerly lapping up the gravy, just like pigs in a trough, thought Alice. You ought to return thanks in a neat speech, the Red Queen said, frowning at Alice as she spoke. We must support you, you know, the White Queen whispered as Alice got up to do it, very obediently, but a little frightened. Thank you very much, she whispered in a reply, but I can't do quite well enough. That wouldn't be at all the thing, the Red Queen said very decidedly, so Alice tried to submit it with good grace. And they did push so, she said afterwards, when she was telling her sister the history of the feast. She would have thought they wanted to squeeze me flat. In fact, it was rather difficult for her to keep in her place while she made her speech. The 2 queens pushed her so, one on each side, that they nearly lifted her up into the air. I rise to return thanks, Alice began, and she really did rise as she spoke several inches, but she got hold of the edge of the table and managed to pull herself down again. Take care of yourself, screamed the White Queen, seizing Alice's hair with both hands. Something's going to happen! And then, as Alice afterwards described it, all sorts of things happened in a moment. The candles all grew up to the ceiling, looking something like a bed of rushes with fireworks on the top. As to the bottles, they each took a pair of plates, which they had hastily fastened on his wings, and so, with forks for legs, went fluttering about in all directions, and very like birds they took. Look, excuse me. Alice thought to herself as well as she could in the dreadful confusion that was beginning. At this moment, she had heard a hoarse laugh at her side, and turned to see what was the matter with the White Queen. But instead of the Queen, there was the leg of mutton sitting in the chair. Here I am, cried a voice from the soup tureen, and Alice turned again, just in time to see the Queen's broad, good-natured face, grinning at her from a moment over the edge of the tureen, before she disappeared into the soup. There was not a moment to be lost. Already several of the guests were laying down the dishes, and the soup lady was walking up the table towards Alice's chair, and beckoning to her impatiently to get out of its way. I can't stand it any longer, she cried. So, let me tell you something. When you get fed up, you get fed up. So, if you pay close attention, here is the Red Queen. Here is the mutton leg. Here's Alice. And all of what was described that was happening. There we go. I don't know how the mutton got into that chair. Maybe it runs really fast. She jumped up and seized the tablecloth with both hands. One good pull, and plates, dishes, guests, candles came crashing down together in a heap on the floor. And as for you, she went on, turning fiercely upon the Red Queen, whom she considered as the cause of all the mischief. But the Queen was no longer at her side. She had suddenly dwindled down to the size of a little doll, and was now on the table, merrily running round and round after her own shawl, which was trailing behind her. At any other time, Alice would have felt surprised at this, but she was far too much excited to be surprised at anything now. As for you, she repeated, catching hold of the little creature in the very act of jumping over a bottle which had just lighted upon the table, I'll shake you like a kitten. That I will. Chapter 10. Shaking. She took off the table as she spoke, and shook her backwards and forwards with all her might. The Red Queen made no resistance whatever, only her face grew very small, and her eyes got large and green, and still as Alice went on shaking her, she kept on growing shorter, and fatter, and softer, and rounder, and... Chapter 11. Waking. And it really was a kitten after all. There's one of Dinah's kittens. A little black cat. A little cute thing. A little bow.
Chapter 12. Which dreamed it? Your Red Majesty shouldn't purr so loud, Alice said, rubbing her eyes and addressing the kitten respectfully, yet with some severity. You woke me out of it. Oh, such a nice dream. And you've been along with me, kitty, all through the looking-glass world. Did you know it, dear? It is a very inconvenient habit of cats. Alice had once made the remark that whatever you say to them, they always purr. If they would only purr for yes and mew for no, for any rule of that sort, she had said, so that one could keep up conversation. But how can you talk with a person if they always say the same thing? On this occasion, the kitten only purred, and it was impossible to guess whether it meant yes or no. So Alice hunted among the chessmen on the table till she had found the Red Queen. Then she went down on her knees on the hearthrug and put the kitten and the queen to look at each other. Now, kitty, she cried, clapping her hands triumphantly, confess that was what you turned into. But it wouldn't look at it, she said, when she was explaining the thing afterwards to her sister. It turned away its head and pretended not to see it, but it looked a little ashamed of itself, so I think it must have been the Red Queen. Sit up a little more stiffly, dear, Alice cried with a merry laugh, and curtsy while you're thinking what to do, what to purr. It saves time, remember? And she caught it up and gave it one little kiss, just in honor of its having been a Red Queen. Snowdrop, my pet, she went on, looking over her shoulder at the white kitten, which was still patiently undergoing its toilet. When will Dinah have toil? I guess not toilet, but it's written as toilet. When will Dinah have finished with your white majesty, I wonder? That must be the reason you were so untidy in my dream. Dinah, do you know what you're scrubbing a white queen? Really, it's most disrespectful of you. And what did Dinah turn to, I wonder? She prattled on as she settled comfortably down with one elbow on the rug and her chin in her hand. To wash the kittens, excuse me. Tell me, Dinah, did you turn to Humpty Dumpty? I think you did. However, you better not mention it to your friends just yet, for I'm not sure. By the way, kitty, if only you'd been really with me in my dream, there was one thing you would have enjoyed. I had such a quantity of poetry said to me, all about fishes. Tomorrow morning you shall have a real treat. All the time you're eating your breakfast, I'll repeat the walrus and the carpenter to you, and then you can make believe it's oysters, dear. Now, kitty, let's consider who it was that dreamed it all. This is a serious question, my dear, and you should not go on licking your paw like that. So here's Queen Alice with her lovely kitties. As if Dinah hadn't watched you this morning. You see, kitty, it must have been either me or the Red King. He was a part of my dream, of course, but then I was a part of his dream, too. Was it the Red King? Kitty, you were his wife, my dear, so you ought to know. Oh, kitty, do help to settle it. I'm sure your paw can wait. But the provoking kitten only began on the other paw and pretended it hadn't heard the question. Which do you think it was? A boat beneath the sky, lingering onward dreamily in an evening of July. Children three that nestled near, eager ear and willing ear, pleased a simple tale to hear. Long has paled that sunny sky, echoes fade and memories die. Autumn frosts have slain July. Still she haunts me phantom-wise, Alice moving under skies never seen by waking eyes. Children yet the tale to hear, eager eye and willing ear lovingly shall nestle near. In a wonderland they lie, dreaming as the days go by, dreaming as the summers die, ever drifting down the stream, lingering in the golden gleam. Life, what is it but a dream? The end. That is the end of the second book, Through the Looking Glass, and our adventures in the world of Wonderland. But don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. There are other adaptations of Alice's world
And one of them that I'll be, it will not be our next book, because I already told y'all our next book is going to be the Redwall series. That's what we're going to be reading. We'll at least read the first book, and if people really like that, we'll go on to the next one. They're very long, so bear with me. But in the midst of me reading that, I will be reading a Halloween-themed book. I know people have had suggestions of me reading Goosebumps, which, shout out to Dark Star Bookstore, because they have a pretty awesome selection of stuff that I grew up reading, as well as stuff that I'm not so familiar with. Somebody suggested Fear Street, and that is a little bit too adult for this particular portion of Storytime with Chris, which I definitely want to develop a young adult channel for that. Yes, Marshalls. Working hard, y'all. Working hard. But I thank you all so much for watching. As I said, you do not have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to check them out on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. All it takes is less than 3 seconds. Go on there, hit the subscribe button. You'll get notifications and whatnot when you hit the bell notification for any new videos or notifications that may pop on there. You will not want to miss out. It is a good time. And I'm trying to put Storytime with Chris on one singular platform. So please, help me out. Thanks, y'all. I'll see y'all next time.